If you've got a small space or even a decent space, but it has lots of clutter that can't be tidied up every time you need to shoot, then a colored background on rollers might be exactly what you need. Using bold block colors in your YouTube backgrounds is still one of the most effective and simplest ways to create solid looking A-roll and also thumbnail images. If you've seen any of our older videos before coronavirus or BC, you might remember Ed's blue background. When we started, we really needed a simple uncluttered look that we could set up quickly, and it would always look the same because we were juggling client work in the studio as well as away work, and that meant the kit and the studio was always moving about. So our first session was shot entirely on background paper. But before you dive in and get the kit, here's the main reasons for and against color backdrops. The pros: they have a consistent look, much faster to set up for each shoot than a background set. You can also have a higher aperture so that everything is in focus, perfect for talking about products in hand or whenever you have a prop in shot. Notice this is still in focus, just in front of my face and just back. Also, I can move a little bit, and I'm not going to drop out of focus. Colored backgrounds look way better on small screens than most sets, so for an audience watching on their mobile device on the way to work, those new preview thumbnails are going to stand out. On the con side, there's nothing in your background or setting to personalize things to you or your brand, so it can make your A-roll scenes a bit anonymous. There's no depth of field either, which may be a plus if you're in a really small space. If you have no idea what I'm talking about and you really like how this looks already, then ignore these cons because color backdrops may be just perfect for you. It still costs money, unlike tidying up your space, which still costs you a bit of time, but then time is an expensive thing too, so do the math and decide what it's worth for 30 minutes of setup time each time you shoot. Just to set up, tidy up, tweak things, and get filming tends to take longer with a set, especially if you work in that space normally. Okay, having looked at all that, let's look at how these backdrops work. If you go searching on Google Shopping or Amazon, these tripod and crossbar options are the first ones that come up, and I'm not a fan of them for a couple of reasons. When you get that gummy feeling from talking too long, your mouth's getting dry. Managed to breathe that in. Number one, they're super flimsy and there's only space for one roll of paper. Not only will you feel not confident in them and wonder if they're going to collapse, they can only take that one roll of paper, which is pretty limiting given all the color choices you can have for different videos or subjects. Number two, they take up space on your floor. So either you're going to need to be leaving them in place and they don't look great, or you're going to need to unpack and repack them each time you shoot, which kind of defeats the purpose of having a ready to go backdrop. That's why you ought to consider the permanent option of background rollers. It doesn't matter whether they're motorized or not, it matters that they're off the ground and on the wall or the ceiling. Backdrops can be rolled up and out of the way so you can get on with your life or other parts of filming. These are motorized, but then that's because this is a working studio and I'll often be chatting to a client, say, while setting up. So having them motorized is just a bit more professional, but there's no reason not to buy the manual ones. I mean, I could have done that manually. So here's what either of them look like. They have this insert which goes into each collar. You can tighten them and they'll expand to fill the core of the paper. So I mean, here's one I'm going to put up in a sec. These just go in and then you can expand them. It's not intuitive, like it takes, you put them in at first, you think they're just not going to fit, and then you expand them until they're nice and tight like that. Now that's it. Now ceiling or wall comes down to whatever's easiest for your studio. You know, if you're up against the wall, then you may as well put it on the wall, which is generally a lot easier. But if you have a part of the room you want to hide, or you've got a low ceiling, then that's not going to work. So you'll need to think more seriously about what can support the weight from the ceiling. We're heading into DIY territory here, but suffice it to say that you can't just hang these from unsupported drywall. You may need some of these to act as a bridge between your ceiling and your main ceiling and the false ceiling. It's actually a lot harder to open than I was kind of anticipating. So this is now become a longer sequence than I was expecting, and not nearly as interesting. All right, so sometimes you need to have some of these. This is 2 of them, but at either end. But basically, you've got hard sealing here, false sealing here, and this bridge comes in standard sizes for whatever your false sealing is. And that's what you would need. So it's a bit heavy duty, but it's the only way to safely put them up when you've got a false sealing. But again, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, get a professional. I don't want any comments on how you put it up and it fell on your head and killed you, but that would raise some interesting existential questions. Word of caution, unless you're doing really close portrait shots only, you won't have enough space with only 2 meters of paper behind you. Once they're up and you're not dead, you'll need to light yourself, and here's how I would recommend you do it. First of all, get yourself a light behind you and facing the background. Now, I'm using a wand light, but it could just as easily be a small panel light. Has that gone wonky? Then get 2 more lights and place them opposite you, because what you've got is one in front on this side and one to the side on the opposite behind me, right? Now, if there's a choice, put the more powerful one behind you. What you ought to get is a more sculpted look, which is generally more flattering, but you might want to experiment with that and perhaps bring the back angle round to the front to fill some of those shadows and make your face lighting a bit flatter. Depends on the look you're going for. I think a bit of sculpting helps to make faces more like they are in real life, whereas the flatter look that we do use a lot for business videos makes people look like candy. But business videos, doesn't go for shadows. If you're ready to deep dive into all things YouTube growth and production, then why not hit the link in the description and check out BoothTube. There's 80 curated videos in there, and if there's anything not in there, it's not worth knowing. Or we just haven't got to it yet. But it's being updated all the time, so check it out. It's free, and you'll find a donate button there if you're able to, and of course only if you found it valuable. Meanwhile, subscribe if you haven't already, and why not check out this video on how to design a YouTube studio to compare color backgrounds with a studio set.